Guys, this is getting embarrassing. Once again, Canada is in the global news, being talked about online, and it is just another super embarrassing reason for us as a country. And guess what, guys? In the global scale of countries, we're not as important as we like to think we are. In the last 9 years, the only time we seem to be making any level of news is when we're embarrassed by our government or something that is happening in Canada. Yes, Trudeau and his government are to blame for the majority of those embarrassments and news stories. But today's is something that I actually talked about years ago. I got pushback on. People called me all sorts of names for talking about this because I used to invest in Niagara and I saw this early. So we are going to get into it because we are getting roasted online right now. Canada is not looking good to the rest of the world. Let's get into it.
Back to the comment section. I'm Brett Cooper, and I'm so sorry to do this to you all, but for the second time in a week, for some godforsaken reason, we need to talk about poop yet again, because too many people are threatening to poop in public or are already pooping in public. This is apparently a worldwide epidemic. Shut down everything. Let's go back into lockdown. Let's figure this stuff out because people are pooping in public. And no, we are not still talking about the French citizens saying that they will go poop in the Seine to protest the Olympics. We are talking about the people on Canada's beaches who are pooping in the sand for convenience. You should be ashamed.
Yes, so as she said, this has been a bit of a global issue because look, we've got Naya P. Fanner still on Twitter talking about the accelerated sanitation in northern Ghana, which is cost Canadian taxpayers $20 million. Oh my gosh. So I don't know if you guys follow Naya P. Fanner still on Twitter. If you don't, you probably should, because she is constantly exposing government corruption, waste and spending. And she had a really long thread about where all of this government money and spending was being done on corruption. And one of the big ones was public beach pooping, which is not stellar. But hey, $20 million just to teach people how to not poop on the beach. Surely that can't be done for free. But let's get into the rest of this video.
A relatively big story in Ontario a few years ago. I somehow completely missed it. Granted, I don't think I was doing the show at the time, but I didn't even see it when I was consuming social media. I'm very upset that I didn't. But one headline from 2020 read, "Tensions rise in Ontario beach communities as out-of-towners flock to local spots." And part of this was because, it was COVID, the local communities didn't want people coming into their beaches, but this journalist really shot himself in the foot because there is a much, much more interesting story here than just tensions are rising because people are coming to their local beaches. Tensions are rising because, again, people are digging holes in the sand to poop in.
I think I'm gonna be sick.
That is the story. That is why the tensions are rising. Go back to journalism school, learn how to write a headline, because that, my friend, is much more interesting. He wrote, "The community..."
Yeah, so as you guys know, I've talked about it. I'm a real estate agent in London, but I actually used to be in Niagara. And the why I caught this so early is because there's an article from the Niagara paper back in 2020, might even be before that, about people pooping on the beaches, and it was trending at the time. And the article's still there because it was a big deal at the time. Here it is from January 2020. So it is an old article, and these are things that was being talked about. But I've said it in other videos. I'm saying now, back in you're all of these ists and all of these phobes and all these things. It's like, no, people are pooping on the beaches. So now that this is a global story 4 years later, it's crazy that it's taken this long to be talked about.
Garbage and public defecation at beaches were causing serious problems. Mr. Clark explained the parking areas near these beaches are not fenced or otherwise contained, making it impossible to vet arriving people and distinguish locals from visitors. Okay, excuse me, you're just gonna slide that into the end of the article? This is like 75% of the way down the page. Deep in the article, you're just gonna slide in public defecation like it's nothing, when apparently this has been a big deal for over 5 years now. Sir, we need to address this. Now, like I said, that article was written in 2020, but 4 years later, the communities in Ontario and just around Canada in general are still dealing with this. I don't know what they've been doing. They have not been securing the beaches. They have not been putting any kind of public ordinances on pooping, but it's still happening. And residents of these communities are posting about it constantly in their public forums on Facebook. And oh my gosh, is it all over Reddit? It is shocking how many posts there are about the pooping on beaches epidemic.
He's shit everywhere!
One post from 3 months ago said everyone's taking a dump in the water. It's Wasaga. And he's talking.
Yeah, so a lot of this story covers Ontario, but if you guys are from Alberta and BC, anecdotally, I've heard Alberta's getting hit hard with this too in some of their lakes. And then I don't know about BC. I haven't heard that much. If you're from BC, have you heard any stories of this happening?
Talking about Wasaga Beach, which is a town in Ontario. Another person said, poop water. Our beach is disgusting. I really hope that our city cleans up our beaches. Another guy from 2 years ago tempted to go to Wasaga Beach, just to take an aqua dump. Now people are saying that they just want to go there so that they can poop on the sandy beaches. And then on that note, another person said, Wasaga Beach actually has plenty of bathrooms, but they're just too lazy. They put up tents, which are now not allowed. Like, that is all that the government has done. Okay, you can't put up the 4-panel tents so that you can poop privately in the sand. No more tents. Like, they haven't actually stopped the pooping. They just stopped the tents. Anyway, they put...
That's such a Canadian solution, like, especially with our... Granted, the federal government is not going around and policing the beaches. This is going to be local. But that's just such a Canadian solution on the stuff that we deal with now, which is just like, okay, no tents. If you're going to poop, no tents. We need to see it instead.
Put up tents not allowed as their personal outhouse. They dig a hole to go. Residents are fed up with the behavior of the majority of our visitors. Absolutely zero respect for the place that we live. I mean, it's like literally...
Disgusting.
And it seems like America is not the only place in the world where we have lost common decency, just a common understanding of what is appropriate in public settings. I mean, apparently they have no consideration for health standards whatsoever. Like, our dogs are not even allowed on most beaches in this country because people don't want them pooping. And yet people are allowed to poop because it is summer and everyone is wanting to go to the beach. Articles started coming out about this epidemic again. But all of the best details that I found on this story were from people online because they were actually being honest and giving us the good juicy details, not just sliding public defecation 3/4 of the way down through the article. But anyway, back to the point. This guy from a year ago said, pooping on Canadian beaches. So I hate writing this, but it's getting out of hand. Just spoke to some family members in southern Ontario and went to visit them. And there are literally people pooping all on the beaches along Lake Erie. These are small towns and most of them don't have bathrooms on the beaches. So instead of driving to a local Tim Hortons or planning their bowel movements to not be in public on the beach,
which Canadians have been doing for decades, we've been finding solutions that do not include, it's just that level of not planning and being like, yep, there's no thinking ahead. I'm just going to dump on the beach. Like, that's what I'm going to do. This is going to be good for Canada. I'm glad I moved to this country so I can dump on their beach.
These terrible people are just, pooping all over the beaches, trespassing on people's property for photos of how beautiful Canada is, and then leaving behind garbage. We are talking mounds of trash just being left behind on the beaches. Some residents try to talk to them, but people don't speak English. And they just continue to litter massive amounts of garbage and take dumps on the beach. Okay, important thing to note there.
I'm always going to laugh when a lady says dumps. This is Brett Cooper, by the way. She's with the Daily Wire. I don't really watch her stuff, so this video was just recommended to me, and I thought it was too funny to not react to, and I figured all you guys who watch, I figured you'd probably like it too.
And that was something that the politically correct Canadian media did not want to talk about. They did not want to touch that aspect of the story. But people online are a lot more fed up, and they are a lot more bold. So the same guy continued on and said, sadly, the people pooping on the beaches are all of the same demographic. New Canadians from India. The fact that we have such a high demographic of Indian immigrants choosing Canada as their home means that we have to have provisions in place to teach people the differences in our culture, such as the importance of hygiene and other things that we have that may not be the same in their country of origin. And guys, we all read that together. That was completely unproblematic.
I think people forget, and I've talked about this in other videos, so the reason this is important to focus on is this is a real microcosm of how people are able to, enter into society and then follow our rules and realize what's conducive here from like there. So the reason this is a very funny one to talk about, but very important, is people always say, oh, why do immigrants still come here? Canada's getting worse. We're becoming a third world country and all these things. Like, we forget that a lot of these people who are coming over, India has 1.6 billion people or whatever it is. There's hundreds of millions of people there who still live in shacks without internet, without power, without anything. So they look at Canada as still being this amazing opportunity, and they're used to those types of situations. And it's just like, so we wonder, why do you want to come over here? And it's like, well, man, your beaches are clean for pooping, dude. And it's like, oh, okay.
All of that is totally reasonable, completely. Again, common decency, assimilation, understanding hygiene standards and what is appropriate in the current setting. But no, pointing that out was racist. And mods on Reddit started flagging all the people making this post. In fact, that post that I just read to you, I screenshotted it from the original post. And that last section about the Indian immigrants was not in there because they had made him edit it and remove it. And then he was getting attacked in the replies for having the gall to bring it up. And then somebody on a different subreddit had been able to screenshot it before he deleted it, and they posted it there. I mean, literally, it's just wild. Like, he was not saying anything bad about them. In fact, he was saying, if they're gonna come here, which is fine, let's just have provisions in place so that we can protect our community and our beaches. That's not a bad thing to say. But all of this, of course, because it's 2024, blew absolutely out of proportion. So then one woman, another local resident,
I think it's adequately proportioned because I would like to live in a country that does not have poop-covered beaches.
got on TikTok to try to clear the air, fact-check the story, and say, yes, this is actually happening, and yes, I'm sorry, but it is a certain group of people. This is what she said.
My house was on the strip, which meant my house, my backyard, was huge, and it backed onto that sand parking lot. That's one of the first ones off, like, at the main end. Yes, there are Indian families that dig holes and put tents and poop. They do it on the beach now, and they did it off my backyard.
We have to pause here because she typed something out that she doesn't exactly say. But she said, I have been in countless arguments with about over 20 families of 20 to 30. So they all come together. It's like huge groups of them come together because we knew to watch for them digging the hole to put up the tent. I lived there for 3 years. This is again, remember the tents. They bring these tents. They make an outhouse on the beach.
That must be all the engineers coming over. They figured it out. They're like, hey, my engineering degree has led to me being able to design a tent poop hole.
No. Like, no.
I seen them digging the hole, and I seen them put the tent. When they left, there was poop. I've had to yell at people for shitting on the borderline property line of my backyard.
And then she typed out another thing and she said this started during COVID and it never ended. They just started doing it not just off in the tree area where people barbecue and chill instead of their chairs. Now they do it on the main beach. They have no other response other than this is totally wild. It is totally unacceptable and somebody needs to do something about it because it's been happening for 5 years. But of course, because it's the world that we live in and it might.
What else has been happening for 5 years? Is it rapid, unchecked mass immigration across Canada? Perhaps.
Be a specific group of people, allegedly. Can't say anything because that would be politically incorrect. Oh, that might trigger them. I'm sorry. I don't care. It's common decency. Grow up. Let's figure this out so that people can enjoy their damn beaches. Oh my gosh.
You can check my town's page where they say there are Indian people pooping on our beach because they're digging holes and they're pooping and putting tents up because they don't want to go to the washrooms.
Ugh, I have no words other than just making that sound time and time again. But of course, this woman posted this video. This was about 15 days ago or so. And she was also accused of racism. So she has now made countless videos about it. She's been arguing with people saying these are just the facts. I'm not trying to be racist. I'm just telling you that this is happening. But to be fair,
I love how as soon as you just say like, here's my personal experience of what happened. Here's what I witnessed. Here's what I had to deal with. And they're like, well, that's racist. And it's like, no. I don't think you understand. Here's my personal experience as to what I dealt with. And they're like, no, that's a problem. And it's like, all right, guys, obviously you're the crazy ones.
fair, those claims of racism and the attacks that she was facing were from a small minority of people because most of the people in her comment section were from Canada and had already experienced all of this, which is even more shocking and appalling. Somebody said, I'm in Brampton. I've seen an Indian guy get out of his and shit beside the fence. Somebody else said, it's everywhere in Ontario and it's so sad. I don't feel comfortable sitting at the beach anymore, let alone allowing my child to play in the sand. Another person said, one time I saw a present floating beside me in Wasaga Beach. Ew. Absolutely not. Nope. No. I have become an anti-beach person after doing this episode. I do not want to be bitten by a shark. I will not be going to Destin, Florida. I will not be going to Wasaga Beach to be near the.
I'm an anti-beach person because I burn, because I'm just a little white guy. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. That's pretty much it for her video there. If you got it this far in the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a bit of an off-topic one. Normally we cover economics and other things. I just thought this one was really funny. But have a great rest of your day.